when I was drowning in debt, I was blaming everybody else. My life did not change until I said I put myself in debt. I said, my parents ain't teach me. Hey, my friends use me for the money. Man, they just only wanted this. But while I'm pointing fingers at everyone else, I got 3 other fingers pointing back at me. And I was like, yo, no. I gave them that. I didn't go out there. It's me. It's pride talking. So I had to fix and change. Me.
Today's guest is Anthony O'Neill. And let me start by saying this. We pulled out all of the stops to make this episode happen. And thank God we did. So we went to DC to record with Anthony. And what we heard was one of the most real, genuine turnaround stories that we've ever had on the show. And so you might know Anthony as a finance expert who has a huge media brand and runs a 7-figure business, but that only captures part of the story. At the age of 19, Anthony was at his rock bottom. He was homeless. He was $35,000 in debt. He was living out of his car. And when I tell you, nothing was working in his life. The journey that Anthony went on from that moment was not an easy one. And in this episode, he shares how to break free from broken generational money habits. We also go deep on how ego traps and chasing validation can completely ruin your life. It can have you stuck in a vicious money cycle. And then finally, Anthony shares how anyone that's listening can start a successful side hustle and business, even if you're working a 9-to-5. And one of my favorite moments in this episode is when Anthony shares his EARN framework. This is the specific steps that he uses to start a business, and it's so good. And so I'm not going to share anything more. I'm just going to let you hear it. You are watching The Callum Johnson Show. Let's get into it. Back in April, you put this on Twitter. You said, in July, I'll be 40. I'm 100% consumer debt-free. I've built multiple 7-figure businesses. I've amassed a multi-million-dollar net worth, and I'm single with no kids. And here's the thing, Anthony, when I started to look into your story, it wasn't always like that. You also said, when I was 19 years old, I was $25,000 in debt and homeless. And so I like to start at the beginning. 19 years old, homeless, living in your car. Give me the context. What was happening at that time in your life?
Man, such a good question. And when I think about that time in my life, bro, it's probably one of the lowest moments of my life. And I say this both practically and spiritually. Because you got to think about it, man. Practically, I was technically $35,000 in debt, $15,000 in credit card debt, $10,000 in student loan debt. Then I had another $10,000 from Aaron Sales and Lease, which was a furniture renting company back then. So I got $35,000 in debt. I created a bad atmosphere for me in my life at that time while I was in college that my father and I didn't see eye to eye on. So I wasn't out back at home. So now I'm homeless at 19. And if we rewind, don't know the nature of your show from the spiritual angle, but I was born and raised a Christian. So I know everything about the Bible. And so I subscribe to Jesus. I subscribe to God. And I believe that in that season of my life, God had to pretty much wipe me practically to where I had nothing. And then bring me down to that spiritual moment to where he can get my full undivided attention. Because, man, have you ever driven? I don't know if they have this in New York, but in California, this is very prevalent. You're pulling up to the gas station, you're at a red light, and a homeless person comes out to you and knocks on your windows asking for $5, asking for food money to get something to eat. Back then, growing up, man, we wouldn't give them money. We would honestly go into the grocery store, come out with bread, milk, water, and some fruit and give it to them. And even back then, some ham and some cheese so that we can make a sandwich. I was that guy 2 times, asking people for something, for some money so that I could eat. At the first time, I felt like what it felt to be judged, to be misunderstood. I remember hearing some people roll up the windows and telling their kids he just want money for drugs. I remember what it feels like to have people look at me and stare at me in my eyes and then roll their eyes at me and keep on driving. I felt low. I didn't feel like a human being. I didn't feel like someone who was valued and cared. And that was the season that I also contemplated suicide. Because I'm like, my family's not struggling. My friends are not struggling. But everything that I did was to impress family, was to impress friends. And everyone that I did that for never offered me a place to come and get something to eat. Never offered me a place to come lay my head. And now people are judging me. And that's the season of that life of, man, I was at the lowest and the lowest point in my life. And at this season of my life at 40, I'm grateful that I experienced that and I lived through that and I pushed through that, because it's part of the reasons of why I will not allow myself to go back and why I'm so passionate about the message that I talk about today, because I don't want that and wish that on nobody.
Mm.
That's that season of my life, bro.
Dang, that is powerful. You know what? You even said this in the book. You said the rock bottom moment came when I wrote some painful words on a piece of cardboard. Please help. Anything is appreciated. I sat down to beg on the same street where my mom and I used to shop for groceries. Talk to me about that moment.
Highway 76, Oceanside, California. It's a Walmart parking lot, Shell gas station, Denny's, Taco Bell, Jack in the Box on that street. That was the same street that we grew up on. And I would ride my bike up there to go to Walmart to get groceries for my parents, for my family. That's the same street that I would ride to go to work. My very first job with a work permit back in the days, because if you was below 16, you had to have a work permit. I was 14. And I would ride my bike to work at Taco Bell. And I would remember being in the car, looking out the left and seeing a homeless person ask for money. I would remember being on that same street at that same light, asking for money. And the sad part was I would always look for my parents' cars to make sure if I saw a car that resembled them, I would turn away and hide so they wouldn't see me. Now, I'm not going to say here now like I did this for 6 months for a long period. I only did it twice because I was that hungry, right? But both of those times, I would be so paranoid that my mom, my dad, my church, our church family would see me and notice me. And I didn't want to be noticed because I was so prideful. I didn't want none of my family or my friends knowing that I was at a point where I had to do that. So every time I even go back home now, man, I always drive by there because they have this In-N-Out burger that's on that same street. And every time I drive by there, I'm like, man, wow, look where I came from. And it's just so, I always drive by there every time I go home because I just want to remember I used to be out there. And every time if I drive by there and if I see a homeless person, I give them $100. Only because I know what it feels like to be on this street at this time. And I don't care what you do with that money. I just want to be a blessing because I wish somebody would have been a blessing to me and not judge me. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm at.
That is powerful. Okay, you know what? You mentioned the word prideful. Mm-hmm. I think for a lot of men, especially when you're in your 20s, early 30s, there's a lot of pride. We can end up in situations where, and I felt this at times, our life will be in disarray. Mm-hmm. But to the external world, we've created this facade that everything is working, everything is still good, but it's not good. Yeah. And so, you know what, you mentioned that was your lowest moment. We don't just arrive at our lowest moments, right? Like there's a gradual descent to that. And a lot of the times we're not aware of that descent, of that downward spiral as we're experiencing it. It's only in hindsight. And so I'm curious, when you reflect now at 40 years old, at that time, what were some of those warning signs, some of those experiences and moments of like, before you hit that rock bottom moment, but you were on that path?
You know, if I'm being honest, man, if there were warning signs, I wasn't taught how to see the warning signs. My parents didn't teach me anything about money. My parents didn't teach me how to think about money, how to think about the decisions around my money. I was just simply told, give 10% to church. I was simply told to budget, but I never saw my parents budgeting. I was told to have a savings account, but I've always saw us stressed, which means we didn't have a savings account. So what I saw and what I ended up doing was normal, if that makes sense. I repeated what I saw. Rachel Cruz, one of my good friends, Dave Ramsey's daughter, says more is caught than actually is taught. So I'm catching everything that I saw my parents do, and I was duplicating what I saw them do, which was make poor decisions financially. And so I think that's one of the main reasons why I'm also so passionate about this message, is because I want people to catch what I'm doing, because some may not listen, but they do see. And if they see, they'll duplicate that. I duplicated having the nice things because that's what I saw. I duplicated going to Aaron Sales and Links because that's what I saw on TV. Yeah, get a full leather couch that's gonna make you sweat when you go and lay down on it, and get the full 80-inch TV from the floor for only $59.99 a month. That's what I saw. Everyone was doing that. I took out the student loans because everybody was taking out student loans. And I didn't even need the student loans because I had my father's GI Bill and a partial scholarship for the National Forensics League. So all my school was paid for, books were paid for. But I see everybody else taking out student loans and taking their student loans to live, to go on to a spring break in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, a back week, to getting wheels put on their tires. Well, shoot, I may as well do it. So I borrowed the money because that's what I saw. So back then, I couldn't see warning signs because I was only doing what I was taught. I was only doing what I was catching. Now I could say there was warning signs because I'm exposed now, and I've evolved now to make better decisions. And I know buying money that I have to pay back with 20% interest is an immature, dumb decision for Anthony O'Neill to do. Spending money to impress my friends, who not one of them called me today. I couldn't even tell you their last name today, of the friends that I spent all this money on to impress them. I know now that was a warning sign. But back then, man, I think that's why a lot of people are making so many decisions. Prime example, I remember, it has nothing to do with money, but I remember when I was young, one of my homeboys had got into a fight. I never saw fighting growing up. It was like, man, my mom and daddy always told me, man, you don't let no one punk you. If they hit you, you gotta hit them back because you don't want them to think that they can punk you again. But to me, I was taught you turn the other cheek. I always saw my parents respond in a respectful, mature way. But him, in his world, in his place, he always saw fighting. He always saw buffness. He always saw strength in that way. So the moment someone checked him, he resorted to what he saw, which was, yo, I got to get you before you get me. But now he's not going to say that's the way to go. So for me, man, that's such a good question, but I didn't see any warning signs because we're always going to do what we see. And that happens to this day, which is why I live. And I tell people, yo, we can have a debt-free life. And let me show you, you can have a great debt-free life. Just catch what I'm putting out there.
Mm. You know what's interesting? So just before we start recording, you mentioned to me, you said, that I've had some of your friends on my show. And people like Tiffany Aliche, the budgetista, Ashley Fox. We've also had George Achimpong, another personal finance expert. And one of the things that I've learned from those episodes and those recordings, they talk a lot about these broken money beliefs. You know, so much of the time we're hearing about saving or budgeting, like the behaviors, but we never address the broken money beliefs that are dictating that behavior. And so you mentioned, and I love that quote that you said, by the way, which is like, more is caught than is taught. When you were younger, like kind of in your formative years, growing up in the house with your mom, your dad, your parents, What were some of those broken money beliefs that you were catching? What were some of those experiences that you vividly remember?
You know, man, without disrespecting my mom and dad, because I think they were only duplicating what they saw as well, which necessarily wasn't the right thing to do, right? Um, I think a lot of my money principles, I have to say this respectfully, do, do not come from my mom and my dad. Um, because we never had the conversation about money. I never saw them budget. I saw them stress over bills. I saw them live paycheck to paycheck. Even to the point, bro, one thing I learned from them that I said I do not want to bring into my life was they made living paycheck to paycheck look good. They made being uncomfortable become comfortable. One of the statements that my mom used to always say, as long as you have roof over your head, food on the table, and clothes on your back, you are all right. And I totally disagree with that statement. I want more than a roof over my head, because a roof over my head could have holes in it. I want more than just simple clothes on my back, because the clothes that I have could be old, outdated, and not fit me well. I want more than just food on my table, because food on my table means I can have what my God says, pinto beans and rice. I want to have, as a Christian, I want to have life, and I want to have life more abundantly. And I didn't see abundance growing up. I saw struggle. Man, I remember one time we used to, when I could tell when we were struggling financially. And back then, Caleb, I didn't even know we were struggling financially because my parents made it look so good. But every time we struggle financially, we've always kept bread, milk, and eggs in the house. Always. My dad would make French toast for dinner because we couldn't go to the grocery store and get some hamburger meat to make hamburger helper. So he'll go in there and he'll, you know, make French toast and make scrambled eggs for dinner at 8 o'clock at night because all we had was bread. All we had was milk. All we had were eggs. We had the seasoning. So he'll take out the cinnamon and put it on there. And I thought it's so cool, French toast at nighttime. But then when I grew up, no, my dad wasn't trying to be cool. He was trying to put food on the table because we didn't have the money to go buy groceries. We didn't have the money to go to Pizza Hut. We didn't have the money to go to McDonald's and get burgers. And so for me, one of the things that I caught was you can make struggling look attractive. And I said, I don't want to struggle in my life. I don't want my wife, my kids, when I'm blessed to have a family, to struggle. I don't want to have to go inside the cabinet and be like, okay, we got milk, we got bread, make French toast. Now, don't get it twisted. I could eat French toast for dinner. I love French toast. I can eat breakfast any time of the day. It's making me hungry now. But to answer your question, man, I just realized that, and it's not even just my parents. Man, that's probably about 60 to 70% of the people who are watching your show right now who have normalized living paycheck to paycheck, who has normalized struggling, who have normalized smiling on the outside but crying on the inside. And that is one money habit that I picked up from my parents. I don't want to, and I will not bring in. And another one that may get me in a little bit of pushback, may give me a little pushback, but I stand by this. I saw my mom work hard for the family. Not saying my dad didn't work, but I never saw my dad work 3 jobs. But I remember every year my mom having 3 jobs. From September to December, my mom would work 3 jobs. Why is that? Because she wants to have a good Christmas. My mom saw my siblings and I struggle and be like, this was a whack Christmas. And ever since we said that, ever since she saw us with our peers and all of them are getting boom boxes back in them days and PlayStations, and we're just getting clothes. My mom said, "Nah, I don't want that no more." And again, I don't want to take away from the man of who my father is, right? But I don't remember seeing my dad work multiple jobs. I remember seeing my mom work multiple jobs. And I don't want my wife to have to work multiple jobs. So those are two main things, man, that I picked up from my family that I just won't do. But also, I would definitely say in a positive aspect, my family taught me the true meaning of joy and of wealth. Because the home was always, while financially we weren't there, there was always a spirit of joy and a spirit of wealth in the family. Because that's just the atmosphere that my mom and my dad just kept, man. So that's what I learned.
That is such a thoughtful answer. I appreciate you sharing that. You know, I think what you say is so true. And I've had moments in my life when I've experienced that as a kid. I think you're correct that people that are listening might be even experiencing that right now. And I think when you're living paycheck to paycheck, when you feel almost like financially underwater or your back is against the wall, like every month it creates this deep anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
It makes even the mundane or the routine things. I remember someone actually came on the show and said this. They said, when you're financially underwater, sometimes the simplest things can happen. Something's wrong with your car, and it spurts off this feeling of deep anxiety within you because you know, I have to get that fixed. What that's going to mean, like, it's just not the way. It's such a stressful way to live life. And so we're gonna get into how someone can start to kind of reverse that cycle and build wealth. And you even talk about it as like building a dynasty. We're gonna get into the practical steps someone can take to do that. But before we do, there's something that you wrote on Twitter that I just had to ask you about. You said, building wealth isn't hard. It's a mindset and having the right strategy. I didn't have the correct mindset in my 20s. I was chasing sex and popularity. I just think that's so real for so many men. Can you, when you even say that last part, I was chasing sex and popularity, take me back to that moment, that phase of your life. Okay, quick break. If you're listening to this episode, you have probably thought about starting your own business at some point. And so let me share with you a quick story. My first business was a t-shirt line, and it was a complete failure. Honestly, the biggest challenge that I had was just in launching it. I got overwhelmed with setting up a website, figuring out payments, and just getting started. What ended up happening was that I overthought every part of the process and ended up doing nothing. Well, that changed with the sponsor of today's episode, our friends at Shopify. Shopify is a commerce platform that makes starting and running your business so much easier. And so when I started my most recent clothing business, Shopify gave me everything that I needed. They have a simple drag and drop store editor that I use to set up the website. They also have powerful tools that help with your marketing and your operations. It just took all of the overthinking out of what I was doing. And so one of the interesting things is that so many of our guests, like Tez and Rob Oliver and Kayla Perilla, they all started multi-million-dollar businesses using Shopify. And they continue to use Shopify to run their business. And so if you've got an idea, Shopify is where you should get started. So go to shopify.com/Callum Johnson and you will get a free trial on Shopify. That's shopify.com/Callum Johnson. And when you use that link, not only are you helping yourself, you're also directly supporting the show. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Let's get back to the episode.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
26. So I'm 40, right? So you're 26. You're right around my team's age, right? So back then, when did you graduate high school?
High school?
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been 2016?
2016. All right. So MTV, 106 in Park, music videos, wasn't really popping back in 2016. So yeah, think about it. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. In the 90s, it was MTV Cribs. It was you had 106 in Park. That's when Free and AJ was leading it, and then Lil Bow Wow took over for a little while. That's when we have Pimp My Ride, where they're taking old school cars and they're changing it. That's when we had 106 in Park showed the top 10 music videos, and then you have the basement with Tigger, and he's talking about all the stuff. And all I saw on TV was, if you want a good looking woman, if you want to be successful in life, you got to make money. You got to have some sort of money. And when you have some sort of money or look like money, you're successful and it will pull the ladies. The second thing that my parents hardly never talked to me about was how to properly court, date, or pursue a woman. We never really had a conversation about sex until they heard a sexual conversation, and I was, what's the correct word? I was disciplined for having that conversation. But they never sat down and had an actual conversation about sex, about women, about relationships. And so for me, when I graduated high school, I'm out there in the world, and the world is teaching me success is chase the money, be popular, because popularity will attract the ladies. And that's what I did, man. I chased them. I went after it. Heck, at even one point in time, I even thought I was a father to a beautiful young daughter for a season. And come to find out I wasn't the father. And that hurt me tremendously. And I started really realizing that, man, success has nothing to do with sex. Success has nothing to do with popularity. Success has everything to do with, am I fulfilling the purpose and the assignment that is over my life? And my purpose and assignment was to motivate, inspire people from a financial perspective with a biblical foundation. And when I started pursuing that, here's one thing I've learned is that when you really operate within your purpose and your assignment, meeting different caliber of individuals from friendship, business, and even relationships, it becomes easier. I had a headache when I was trying to spit game. I had a headache when I was trying to lie and mislead people. But now when I'm in my purpose, my assignment, forming relationships are easier, because now it's like, well, that's where Anthony's going. I want to be aligned with that. And so for me, man, spending a lot of money on ladies in my 20s was horrible. Bro, I've spent $7,000 in a strip club before on ladies. I thought I was a father on ladies. I racked up debt. My first credit card was $500, $150 on Red Lobster, taking her out to eat, $150 on roses, and $200 on a purse. Then they gave me an increase, didn't pay that off, paid $30, spent $1,000 to put a sound system in the back of my black on black 1977 Nissan Maxima, just so I can be popular. So when I pulled into the beach, when I pulled into the neighborhood where I'm picking her up, I'm going to my boy's house, I can blast the boombox and they can hear me coming down the road. I chased popularity and I chased women, but I didn't chase purpose, fulfillment, and joy. And man, it cost me. It cost me my experience. And I will be wealthier today. I will have a stronger company today. I'll be further into my vision if I would have been exposed to someone else earlier in my 20s. But I was only exposed to what the world and the street was teaching me. And I'm not a street dude. That's not me. I don't want to act like I'm a street dude. But when I say streets, I'm talking about the community that I was in outside of my mom and dad's house, outside of the church community.
Yeah. You know, this is so good, because we're getting into, this is real.
Yeah.
This is so real. And at least for myself personally, I call it ego traps.
Facts.
And what it is, I experienced this because 18 months ago, I left my job to do the podcast full time.
Congrats.
Thank you. And at the same time that I did that, I went from living in Manhattan to moving back in with my parents,
Okay.
with my mom in New Jersey, and building the business. And this thing happened where I didn't even realize how addicted I was to validation, specifically the validation of dating and attention from women. And it was only when I was in that environment where essentially 6-7 days a week, I'm just working on my business all the time. And there wasn't that outlet of going on the date or splurging or being the cool guy, being the man.
Yeah.
And I think as men, we enjoy the validation of that feeling so much of like, I'm the guy.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned the importance of purpose. I'm curious when you reflect on your story, is there a point, is there a moment where you start to realize, like, what's the moment when you realize the importance of purpose, where you start to kind of work your way out of that ego trap? Like you kind of see that that's what's happening.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you said. I think I want to be clear. I think there's nothing wrong with validation from people in your life. One of my love languages is words of affirmation, and so I look forward to my wife affirming me one day. I love getting the affirmation, the validation from my mom, from my dad saying, yo, you're doing it. Good job. Good job. And there's nothing wrong with wanting your community to affirm what you're doing. It becomes unhealthy when you're looking for that validation from people who don't love you, who's not attached to where you're called to go. And so for me, I was looking for the affirmation and validation from people who didn't even care what I was called to, rather than from the people who loved me, who knew me. And so to answer your question, when it comes to, your question was on purpose, right?
Mm-hmm. I almost want to know, like, when you even say that statement of you're chasing validation from people that they don't love you or even where you're going.
Yeah.
What is the experience that symbolizes the height of that for you, of you chasing someone that ultimately they had no love or care or consideration for where you were going? Or,
well, it's simple. It's selfish on their end. So it's like, if I'm chasing her and I'm trying to spend all this money on her, but she doesn't know that my assignment is to help people get out of debt, then she wouldn't accept that. Prime example, one of my close friends, he was going through something, and he and his wife was going through something. So I had some money that I saved up. I gave it to them. His wife said, no, what you're doing is amazing. We'll get through this. But we don't want to take your money, because then now that takes us out of alignment for your journey, for your purpose. We made this mistake. We made this decision, not Anthony. We don't want your money. We'll figure it out on our own. That's alignment. That is affirmation. You're doing a great job. We want to hold you accountable to that. Now, if I take that same check and give it to shorty over here with a fat old little booty back there, and she don't care nothing about my life, she's, oh, you're so sweet, you're so nice, thank you, Ayo, thank you. That's not affirmation. That's me chasing sex, woman, me trying to impress her, but she doesn't care about me. She doesn't care about my assignment. She doesn't care about where I'm going. And I want to be connected with people who understand my purpose, who understand my desires of where I need to go, and we can help each other, but we can also hold each other accountable. But it's like, if you don't know my purpose, you really don't care. And there's a lot of people, and it's not just ladies, it'd be men too. Like, I could be a man and don't care about your purpose and just take, but then not give and not love and not encourage and not affirm and not push and guide. And so for me, everything for me is all about purpose driven. And I'll even go a step deeper. It's not just about purpose, but it's a vision. So everything in my season today is, I'm 40 today. My goal, my prayer is I live till I'm about 150, right? And my vision over here is, hey, I want to be 150, but my actuality is I'm 40. So my purpose and my vision has to get me to this age. Well, I got to find people who will align with this to get me here. And if it doesn't happen, cool. I got to be by myself. But at the end of the day, bro, when I think about specifically your question, because I like to make sure that I answer the question that I'm given, is that we have to know our own purpose. We need to sit back and really, 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 really get a clear vision of where we're going. Because in this world, the majority of people do not care for where you're going. They only care about where they're going and how to best use you. And what I've had to learn is once I set the vision and the assignment of where I'm going, I have to go. I may have to go around a corner. I may have to jump over a roadblock. I may have to even stop and back up a little bit to catch some speed to jump even higher over there. I may have to go under something. But as long as I stay true to the purpose and to the assignment of my life, I'm going to be all right. And sometimes it feels stressed, man. Sometimes I feel like giving up. Sometimes I feel like crying. Sometimes I feel like cussing. Sometimes I feel like screaming. But I've never given up on the purpose and assignment of my life because there is someone in the world who I do not know that is attached to my purpose. We have nearly 2 million people that interact with our brand. And they are attached to there's something that they need from my brand. And if I stop impacting lives. And if I stop impacting lives, I stop making income. If I stop making income, then I stop providing for my family. If I stop providing for my family, now my family goes back to where I was, and I refuse to have that happen.
Anthony, you know what? Here's where I want to go. Because there's someone listening right now. I called it ego traps earlier on. There's someone listening that's in that moment. And you know what's funny, even in what you speak about, and I think it's so true what you say. I feel like as a man, and I think it's the same for women, you can actually feel when someone isn't really aligned with your purpose.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think here's the trap that we fall into as men. It's what you were saying. It's, oh, but she's bad though.
Yeah.
But she looks good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, but maybe I could take her out on Thursday. And
Yeah.
And so for the person that's stuck in the ego trap, because I'm big on step one. Like, what is step one? Like, what is the first thing you do? Step one, how does someone get out of that ego trap?
Hey, man, I've heard this said several times, and Dave Ramsey says it best. Do it. Just do it. There's nothing deep. I got to tell myself every single day, every single morning, boy, shut up. Hey, man, listen. No. Like, you have to be 100% honest with you. This is your ego talking. The pride cometh before the fall. This is your pride right here. Stop it. And when you can look at yourself in the mirror, literally, and say, stop it, that is when things happen. Now, are there going to be other things you can do after that? Absolutely. But the very first thing is you have to be honest and truthful with yourself. This is my ego talking. This is my pride talking. This is my arrogance talking. This is my insecure talking. This is this. And we have to get to a point where we can check that. When we can call that out, then once we know what the problem is, then we can put systems and strategies and steps in place to make sure we don't go back there. When I was drowning in debt, I was blaming everybody else. It wasn't, my life did not change until I said I put myself in debt. I said, my parents ain't teach me. Hey, my friends use me for the money. Man, they just only wanted this. But while I'm pointing fingers at everyone else, I got 3 other fingers pointing back at me. And I was like, no. I gave them that money. I didn't go out there and learn. It's me. That's pride talking. So I had to fix and change me.
I like that accountability. I like that exercise of even not just calling yourself out, but calling specific sides of yourself out.
That's it.
My insecurity talking. That's my ego talking. Because it takes you out of your head for a second.
I bought stuff because I was insecure. So I would buy sometimes some name brand items because I was insecure on how I looked. I remember I had like $500,000 sitting in my account one time. I was driving Acura TL. I didn't have no name brand items. And I remember hearing some people say, didn't he say he was debt free? He looked like that. He ain't got no money looking like that. These are two good looking girls. I'm sitting here traveling the world. I'm on private jets. And they just said he looking like that. Ain't nobody listening to him. Man, I went out there and bought this and bought that and bought this. And I'm like, man, I'm about to show them. But it was because I was insecure in who I was. And it wasn't because I wanted that. It was I bought this so I can show them I got a bag. I bought this because I want them to see, like, man, I am debt free and I can buy whatever you want while you're over there struggling your job. And then it hit me. I took it back. People know what I'm talking about. I took the Gucci bag back. Because I was like, why? Why do I have a Gucci backpack? Why? I don't need it right now. And I'm not going to spend $3,500 to impress someone who I would never see again. And I didn't start buying the nice things until I actually started liking the nice things, until I wanted the nice things. But before, I bought them because I wanted to show everyone I got a bag. And I had to tell myself, you bought this because you was insecure in who you are. Don't buy this because that $3,500, you can put that inside a good mutual fund, let that sit there over the next 20, 30 years, man, that's going to yield you back $200,000, $300,000. Man, take this bag back. Man, I recorded myself going back to the Gucci store and I gave it back to him. And I recorded myself telling the woman why I'm taking it back. Because I bought it as an insecure man. And her look was like, so yeah, I bought it as an insecure man, not because of a man who wanted the backpack. Now, do I have a Gucci backpack? Yes. Do I have a Louis Vuitton backpack? Yes. But back then, I didn't need that. And it's like, for me, I'm always asking myself, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Do I really want this? Or am I doing this to impress others? And to this day, sometimes I still say I'm doing it to impress others and I don't buy it. Don't buy it. There's a really nice little trend coming out with people who are buying these bracelets that they stay on you forever now. So once you buy it, they lock it on you and it can't come off. You shower with it, you jump in, it doesn't come off. It's pretty expensive. And I don't know if I like it, or I don't know if I want to buy it just to say I got it to impress others. So I say, you know what, I'm not going to do it yet. Because I can't say I want it. But I see everyone else doing it. All my boys are doing it. They got it. Oh yeah, bro, this thing fat. It would be cool to show. Yeah, bro, I got me one too. But do I really want to have a bracelet locked on me for the rest of my life? Like, I don't know. So I said I'm not going to do it because that could be an insecure. That it could be something. So I got to find out first. But that comes with maturity and being honest and saying, hey, is this? Is this that? And there's not one human being on this earth who doesn't battle that in some form or fashion. And to be successful and to really take control of it, you got to call yourself out and you got to be honest with yourself. Because why do you want to lie to yourself? It makes no sense. You can lie to the world, but why do you want to lie to you? Man, that is miserable when you are trying to lie to the person who knows the truth. That is crazy. And I refuse to be that guy.
Yeah. You know what? Here's where I want to go next.
Yeah.
I want to talk about how someone can build wealth.
Okay.
And in particular, you spoke about purpose. I'm a big believer in side hustles.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in you're working your 9 to 5. And this is what I did. You're working your 9 to 5. You start that thing on the side. And either that thing can become successful and you're still working your 9 to 5 and now you have both of these incomes, or the side hustle can become the main hustle. And now you're deeply in your purpose and you're building that dynasty in the way that you said. And so what I did, I went to ChatGPT, because I know you've spoken about building a side hustle, increasing your income potential. And I got it to break down your approach into 4 steps. So I'm going to give you the steps one by one. And I just want you to elaborate.
Yeah.
And we can give people the blueprint to do this right now.
Let's do it.
Okay, so phase 1, this is what ChatGPT said, is self-assessment and market research.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when I even say that in relation to the person that's working their job and is looking to find what that successful side hustle could be,
Mm-hmm.
self-assessment and market research, what is involved in that phase?
So it's a good question. That came from because one of my family members in my family is known for just jumping out there and starting businesses. Go buy LLC, go out there and launch it. For an example, this particular family member had a T-shirt idea. Went out there, bought the LLC, bought some T-shirts, went to Walmart and said, hey, I got these T-shirts would be dope on your counter. Walmart said, these are ugly. Next time, man, I want to start a youth nonprofit organization. Flopped. The next time, this particular family member went out there and did bought a black car to do limousine services on it. Didn't do the research. Because those companies are going out of stock right now because of Uber Black and Lyft Black. So for me, when I'm saying self-assessment and market research, step back and figure, okay, one, what are you passionate about? Like, what is a gift, a talent that you have that you can contribute to society? Once you identify that, how can you package that into a service, into a product that the world will receive? But the problem is, once you identify your gifts and your talents, here's how I say people build wealth. Find a void that your gifts and talents can fill. Oftentimes, what I'll see is, I want to do this, so I'm going to start this company. But you never found a void that you could fill. So my first assessment is always, let me find a void that I can fill, that can fuel maybe my ultimate dream with some financial resources. No one was talking on this planet. No one. I mean, there's not really a lot of people who talk the message that I talk outside of a Dave Ramsey, maybe a Lee Jenkins, right? But there's not a lot of people talking about no consumer debt. Everyone teaches credit cards. Everyone teaches use other people's money to get what you desire. So I'm like, wait a minute. 80% of the people are struggling in this world. They're living paycheck to paycheck, but you're telling those people who are already living paycheck to paycheck to go get a credit card and add another bill on top of that? That's a void. I need to fill that void. What's my gift and my talent? God gave me the gift to inspire, to motivate. God gave me the gift to go through what I went through at a young age and to be out of that. God gave me the gift to be able to say I am consumer debt free. I still do have a mortgage, but I can show people through my trials, through my story, through my testimony, how to do that. Let me take my gift and my talent, go fill this void, right? Once I fill that void, it's going to produce income. Now I can come back and do the things that I really, 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 really want to do. A lot of people don't know this, man, but I like acting. Like I'm just a funny guy. One day I want to be able to just go out there and just do some acting somewhere. But there's so many actors out there. I can't do that. Man, another thing is, man, I want to compete on a golf tournament one day, like on a professional golf level. Man, I can't play golf like that. I can play golf, but not at that level. But if I sit there and I fill this void and get the funds coming in, get the income coming in, man, I can go out there. But again, self-assessment, right? Market research. Work those things together. Find a void and fill it. Mark Zuckerberg found that college students didn't have a way to communicate with each other. He found a void and he filled it. And today, he's one of the wealthiest people in America. Amazon founder, Jeff Bezos, found that, man, people are going to one day get tired of going to the grocery store, tired of going to Barnes and Noble every single week to get a book, to get groceries, to get batteries. Let me create a source to fill that void, to bring in convenience. Uber and Lyft founders was like, man, people are paying these expensive, crazy costs for taxi cab drivers. And I'm seeing in an economy that people are looking for jobs. Let me use their cars to get people rides, and I make money off of that. They found a void and they filled it. People are not looking for voids and filling them. That is why you do not have a dope side hustle that can one day turn into something of substance.
You know, I want to talk more about, because I think what you say is so true, and I want to talk more about how not only just how someone can find the void, but actually know that it's a void. And you know what? As I do that, let me bring in phase 2, which is create a simple business plan. And the reason why I even bring that in, I see a lot of people using business plans as procrastination. You know, I think when I think about business plans, I think about pages and pages and pie charts and presentations and, 20-page documents. A lot of it is procrastination. And so even when you talk about finding that void, filling that void, I think a lot of people are working on things, and I've done this as well. They're working on things that maybe they think there's a void there, but there really isn't. And so how does someone validate their business idea?
They got to earn it. I have this acronym that I break down and I call it EARN. I don't really believe in business plans anymore. I believe in earning your place in it. And number one is you got to evaluate where you currently are and where that industry currently is. And so that's what the E out of it, because like oftentimes we're not evaluating the place. We're not evaluating our gifts, skills, and talents. We're not evaluating where we currently are. And then once you evaluate where you currently are, you got to arrange the vision. The vision is, where are we going? What am I doing? What can I do in this particular space? Okay. Once I see that there is a void, okay, what is the vision? How am I going to go and complete that vision, complete that void? And how am I going to make sure that I place a stamp in that industry? And I say this respectfully. If you're in the debt-free world, you know who Anthony O'Neill and my team are. We saw the void. I evaluated where I currently was when I first started this business. I stepped back and I said, okay, that's a void. Let me sit down and write a clear vision of how I'm going to impact that world. Once I wrote the vision, here's where a lot of people mess up at it. The last two things, right? EAR. You got to render the strategy. If you don't know how to come up with a system, not a business plan, because a business plan is, here's everything that I want to do and here's why I want to do it. No. Okay. What is this proven strategy that you can put on paper and apply in life that is going to impact that culture? Dave Ramsey is so successful because he has 7 baby steps. That is the strategy. I am so successful in my space because I have 5 map heats on how to go from where you are to leaving a legacy. My D Free, they're so good because they have a strategy. Earn Your Leisure, so good because they have a strategy. So if you're really going to fill that void, you got to render a proven strategy that you can take into that particular space and win. If you look at the most successful people, man, they have a simple strategy and a simple experience. Facebook, simple. Amazon, simple. Microsoft, simple. Apple, simple. If you look at all of the major winners in life, they have something that is super simple. One of the most popular burgers on the West Coast is called In-N-Out.
Yeah.
Why are they simple? You only choose from 4 things. How is it that every single day their lines is long? You only choose from 4 things. They have a strategy that is so simple. They know people don't want to stand in line for a long time. And more than likely to come and get a cheeseburger with 1 patty, 2 patties, or no patty. So for me, get that strategy and then you got to act. Because you said it. People are lazy. And for me, what I hear laziness is they don't want to act. They don't want to do the thing that he even wrote on the business plan. They don't want to put the work in. So if you can evaluate where you currently are, evaluate where the industry currently is, arrange the vision, render the strategy, and act on that strategy, you're going to have a side hustle that will generate so much income that it will force you out of your job. Force you.
You know what is interesting? It's interesting to me being able to sit in this chair. And at this point, we've done over 100 episodes.
Congrats.
Thank you. And so many great entrepreneurs that have come from really nothing to building incredible businesses, life-changing businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses.
Yeah.
And the reason I say it's an interesting seat to sit in, you start to see patterns. And so you even spoke to one of them, which is that simplicity, which is knowing exactly what your value prop is of your business and then executing. On that journey, as you're in it, it can sometimes seem so difficult. And so I'm curious for you, like, are there, especially in kind of those early stages of building a business, of being an entrepreneur, are there certain books, people that you were kind of looking to that they were kind of showing you this entrepreneurial mindset? Like it was really kind of, like you look at it and without having read those books, you wouldn't be who you are right now. Like what comes to mind?
Man, when I think of those book, Relation Intelligence by Darius Daniels, one of the things that when I started launching my business, I was like, man, shoot, I'm the boss. I cut the check. And I didn't really realize the importance of the relationships that if someone joins my team, there is a level of trust there that they have for me that I can't mismanage. And earlier on, I started realizing that if I'm going to get to where God wants me to get, I have to have such a level of respect, and I have to really step back as a leader and learn how to lead the way Christ led. And so this book with Darius, he really teaches how to build healthy relationships with healthy boundaries that will get you to where you want to go. And that book completely changed my life. Another resource that I read was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And because it's like relationships and how you're talking to people is so important. And that book really taught me, okay, wait, I'm going to get frustrated as a CEO. There's a time of frustration. Your team will receive the frustration, but do you celebrate them more than you frustrate them? And it's like I had to learn I can be quick to call out my frustration, but I need to be just as quick or probably even quicker to call out the places that they're winning in. And that is something that I'm constantly reminding myself, hey, thank you so much for doing that. Oh, man, that was a great job. Oh, man, I appreciate that. So that way it's not always attacking. And those two books, man, have really changed my life. I've read so many new books on how to make more money and how to market, but all that doesn't make anything if I'm doing everything myself. If I don't have a solid team, why the heck am I marketing? Now I'm stressed. So those two really helped me out.
Yeah, I'm going to go through phase 3 and phase 4 together.
Okay.
Phase 3, start small and test the waters.
Facts.
Phase 4, learn and adapt continuously.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
My dad taught me something when I was younger. We were riding a bike coming down a hill. He was running because he was in the Marines, and I was riding a bike so I can keep up with him. And I saw my dad while he was running trip. And once he tripped, he literally caught himself, did a flip mid-air, came back up, started running, and acted like nothing never happened. In my head, I thought that was the coolest thing my dad has ever done. We were on the highway coming down a hill. He tripped, boom, came back up. No scratches on him, kept running. When I got to the house, I saw a scratch on his arm. I was like, Dad, you're bleeding. It's like, oh, son, it's all right. He said, listen, son, in life, you're always going to have to learn how to adapt, adjust, and overcome. If you're going to be successful in anything, you got to quickly learn how to adapt, adjust, and overcome. And from there, I've always learned I can quickly adapt and adjust and overcome if I start small. It's easier to adapt and adjust and overcome if I started small and gradually grew. But if I go from 0 to big, I don't know if I can adapt and adjust. I don't know if I can adjust. I don't know if I can maneuver. So I've always just learned to start small. We have this big building here for our studio. And if you look at it, we just started with this studio. The reason why we started with this studio is because I want to make sure that my team, we can efficiently run this one small studio. Because if we open up this, then we open up the other two that we have over there, and we have everyone using those studios, it's going to be hard to adjust if we haven't learned this. And so for me, I tell people for a small business, if you want to start a hobby, start small. You don't need to start big because life is going to happen. You're going to learn so much when it's small. When it's small, you can quickly make those adjustments that you need and then gradually grow as you're maneuvering and as you're really getting situated with that stuff. And from there, you'll be good. But I see a lot of entrepreneurs try to go big. And then what happens, prime example, one of my guys used to smell, one of my friends used to sell those little things like nicotine that has flavor.
The vapes.
Yeah, the vapes. Yeah. And he bought like 100 of them, sold out in like 2 hours. He bought like 500, sold out in like in another 2-3 hours. I was like, wait, whoa. Then he bought 10,000. He didn't sell out. Then he was like, wait. So he sold 200 here, 200 there, 300 there. Then he got on a very popular show. He did pre-orders. Pre-orders turned into 25,000. It took him almost 4 months to deliver on those products because he went so big and he wasn't prepared for it. So all I'm saying is start small, create that demand, create that requirement, get you some employees, get you some teammates, get you some contractors, and grow at the speed of your business.
Perfect. Okay. You know what? Because I know we need to get you out of here. Here's my final question. Here's where I want to end.
Yes, sir.
Is today, as you sit before me, you're 40 years old. I even listed all of the things that you've accomplished, earned in that time. But at 19, it feels like you were a very different person. And you even told the story of being homeless, of, sitting there and holding that piece of cardboard and that being your lowest moment. And so I'm curious if the Anthony that sitting before me now had to have a conversation with that 19-year-old Anthony that was sitting there looking every now and then at the traffic to see if his parents would see him so he could shift his face away, what would you tell that version of Anthony?
That season of my life at 19, when I think about it now, it's a good question, man. No one's ever asked me this. And I'll be very honest. I don't want to set this up by saying I am content and happy with where I'm at 40. But if I went back to 19, I would tell him, hey, in about 2 years, you're going to meet this amazing woman who loves God and who loves you. But your friends are going to say, she ain't the one that don't bring sand to the beach, because you're going to blow up and a pastor's going to invite you to come because he sees something on your life to be a youth pastor in his church. You're going to pass up on your favor and your best thing to impress your friends. You're going to meet her and she could change your life. Marry her. Dive in deeper into your word. Stay away from the debt. You'll be wealthy by 30. You'll have a huge business by 35. You'll be able to retire and stop doing what you want to do at 45. You'll be a dad to 2 great kids, maybe. A husband to an amazing woman. No stress, no drama, no STDs. No kids out of wedlock. No drama. That's what I would tell them. That, hey, your mom and dad didn't teach you what you need to know financially. But do not fall for the trap of chasing women, especially when you have a wife ready to be there. And I think, man, if my 19-year-old would listen, my 40-year-old self would be a different person.
Mm.
Because what a lot of people don't understand is wealth is not just money, but wealth is also family. Wealth is also character. Wealth is also peace. I think sometimes we associate wealth with solely how much money we have. And the truth of the fact is, I know that if I had a wife, I would be wealthier today. Truth of the fact is, I know that if I had a deeper connection with my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I would be wealthier today. Truth of the fact is, I know that if I didn't chase material things, I would be wealthier. My life will be wealthier. My soul and my spirit will be wealthier if I just made better decisions at 19. So that's what I would say. And hopefully he would listen. But the truth of the fact is, bro, as we end your show, I was too immature to listen, man. I don't think I would have listened. Because I had people in the church telling me I shouldn't do certain things. My mama told me I don't need that credit card at 18. I still did it. But I think I didn't listen because I never saw what I see today. And if I would have saw it, I would do it. So that's why I live by it today. I want people to see what I'm doing. Some people say, why are you showing this off? Why? Because I want people to see. I'm driving a Bentley. I paid for it cash. Didn't borrow no money. I'm not in debt. You can do it. I ain't showing off your pool because I want people to see. You can have a pool and not have any debt. You can be a black young man, be financially free, and not have any debt. So if you see it, you can do it. But if you only teach it and they don't see abundance and peace and freedom and wealth and some sort of luxury aside of me, but I'm telling them to do it, no one's going to listen because it's not believable because I don't see it. So to answer your question, I probably wouldn't tell myself anything. I probably want to go back and show him something so he can do it.
More is caught than is taught.
More is caught than is taught, man.
Anthony O'Neill, thank you so much, man.
My man, thank you, bro.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. It's really a dream for me that I get to do this. It's surreal that this is what I do full time and every week. So if you enjoy the content, if you enjoyed the conversation, the stories, please hit that subscribe button. It helps us immeasurably with growing the channel, with getting guests, all of those things. So please hit that subscribe button and I'll see you next time.